Ellen, you were on a Zoom recently hosted by John Steinbach, who has been on the radio show about the 80th anniversary of the Trinity test and the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. You've been at this for decades. Tell us a little bit about that and why right now is so important and what we should do.
Okay. Well, 80 years of having the bomb and always being on the edge, hair trigger alert of nuclear war. I think it's time for us to change that. And I grew up in California, and when I started school, one of the things they taught us kindergartners was to dive under our desk when the alarm went off. Excuse me.
Duck and cover.
Duck and cover. And I asked the teacher why. And she said, well, you don't want to get cut by glass. Well, I had seen Life magazine's pictures of Hiroshima and Nagasaki on the coffee table in my parents' living room. And at the age of 6, that seemed hard to believe that it would only be glass breaking. And that really stuck with me from the time I was a small child. And I remember when I had my first child sitting by her crib and thinking, and it was at a time in 1966 when things weren't all that great either, as you vets would know. And I remember just thinking, when are we going to do something about this? And I was in the mountains of North Carolina, and there wasn't a whole lot you could do in the mountains of North Carolina about nuclear weapons in those days. So I went on with my life and had a lot of adventures. And when my kids were grown and didn't need me anymore, I decided it was time for me to do something about it. So I went to Washington, D.C. and got a job with the National Wildlife Federation and was working for the CEO and went to a shareholders meeting in 1983 where the shareholders voted yes on a resolution to ask President Reagan to get rid of nuclear weapons. And that seemed like a good idea. And then I was walking through Lafayette Park one night, and which is outside the White House for those who don't know. And I saw some great big huge signs, and one of them was a painting of a mushroom cloud with the words "Revelation, this need not be our end." And I stopped to talk to the people who were there and found out that they had been there day and night for 3 years. And I quit my job, joined the vigil, married the man who had started the vigil, and was to work together with him for 25 years in front of the White House. And during that time, we brought a voter initiative to the people of Washington, D.C., D.C. Initiative 37 in 1993. And it won the election. And as a result, Eleanor Holmes Norton, who at that time was a new Congresswoman. She didn't like the language at first, but we negotiated with her and came to an agreement, and she's been introducing a bill ever since called the Nuclear Weapons Abolition and Conversion Act. HR 1888 is the number this year. And you can learn all about that at our website, which is prop1.org, prop1.org, which stands for Proposition 1. We're Proposition 1 committee. And I shared with the Veterans for Peace Nuclear Weapons Abolition group that I'm part of a letter that I drafted for people to send to their representatives that I'd like to read, if that's okay. Is that all right with you?
Yeah.
Okay. Please co-sponsor H.R. 1888. As one of your constituents, I am urging you to co-sponsor H.R. 1888, the Nuclear Weapons Abolition and Conversion Act of 2025. As the only nation that has used nuclear weapons in war and that still possesses one of the largest nuclear weapons arsenals, this bill would help the United States reestablish its moral leadership in the world. Congress should set an example to the other nuclear powers by passing H.R. 1888, urging the President to sign the treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons and helping arms industries retool factories and retrain workers to provide clean energy, environmental restoration, and other human needs instead of nuclear weapons and other weapons of war. To avoid a climate catastrophe that could make this planet uninhabitable, greenhouse gas emissions most urgently and drastically must be curtailed. The current plan to spend at least $1.7 trillion on nuclear weapons modernization over the next 30 years should be used instead for transforming from fossil fuels to carbon-free, nuclear-free energy. President Trump has said that we should denuclearize. We agree. This bill sends a message to arms industrialists that they would be paid to transform their industries to addressing climate change rather than preparing the world for war. For example, $60.3 billion could create 350,000 clean energy jobs. I got that from the National Priorities trade-off calculator for how this switch would work. Poll after poll show Americans would rather have their tax dollars spent on public services than on Pentagon contractors, and would prefer policymakers prioritize spending on health care, education, housing, and infrastructure, not the military, and especially not nuclear weapons. So we are also asking that people ask their senators to introduce a companion bill. This has been introduced 17 times since 1994, and there have been a number of co-sponsors. John Lewis was a co-sponsor. If you go to H.R. 1888, you'll see the 8 co-sponsors we have right now. It's always progressives. It's never Republicans. It's never the more conservative Democrats, and it does seem like a really hard thing to do. Even back from the brink is saying that people think that we're asking for unilateral disarmament. No, we're not asking for unilateral disarmament. There's a clause in the bill that says it goes into effect when all of the nuclear powers have begun the process. And but the thing that is important about this, I believe, is that it gives a message to those who are making money from the arms race that we're not going to abandon them. We're not going to put them in jail. We're not going to close down their factories. We're going to pay to retool their factories and retrain their workers to do something that is good for society rather than constantly preparing for war and making war so that they can prepare for war again. So, as veterans, you know all about that. I consider myself a veteran of being on the sidewalk in front of the White House. I guess that's why I'm an honorary VFP. But now, one thing I'd like to recommend is if you don't get any results from your legislators, which you may not, consider doing what we did in Washington, D.C., because we had circulated a petition outside the White House and gotten tens of thousands of signatures from people all over the country and all over the world asking Congress to introduce a bill, and they didn't do it until we brought a voter initiative. And so I'm suggesting that what we need to do is have voter initiatives all over the country, wherever they exist, asking our legislators to do the right thing. So if anybody would like to know any more about this, I would be delighted to hear from you. And my email is et for Ellen Thomas @prop1.org.
Excellent.
Voter initiative would be something along the lines of Proposition 1.
Yeah. What we did,
Yeah,
every place has its own rules, right? So when
right.
you check into it and it's better to do a local voter initiative because statewide are hard to do and very expensive. But local voter initiatives, you need to find out what the rules are. When we first introduced it, in 1991, we started right. No, it was 1990 actually, and then the first Gulf War started, and everybody was beating on drums against the war, and we decided to delay it and start it again in 92. But when we submitted the idea, and the Board of Elections met with us and told us what was wrong with what the language was in it. And so we revised the language so it conformed to what they required. So what we asked was that the mayor write a letter to the representatives saying that the majority of the voters of District DC wanted her to introduce this bill. And that's what passed. And people walked out of the voting areas saying, how could you vote against it? It passed very high percentage of the vote.
Excellent. Do you think you're going to get more traction on this effort because it is the 80th anniversary, or do people
Well,
even know it's the 80th?
people are talking about nuclear weapons right now. One thing that does give me hope is that Donald Trump seems to think that they're a bad thing too. And so this means that we might actually be able to ask Republicans to sign on for a change. In the
Or to,
past, Eleanor Holmes Norton said, "Don't even try." But I think now that we can, and that we should try to help these people understand that it's everybody. It's not a political thing. It's a survival of everybody.
Mhm. Are you going to do anything special on August 6th and August 9th?
I'm taking my granddaughter to Japan for Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Hmm.
I'm really
Wow.
excited about that. Yeah, my 20-year-old granddaughter, I've been dreaming of doing this. And so, yeah. Yeah,
Nice.
I've been several times. I've been asked to speak and and just love the people. And of course, a lot of Japanese people came and visited with us in front of the White House over the years. So it will be homecoming for me, but I think my granddaughter will never forget. And hopefully she'll become as passionate about getting rid of nuclear weapons as I am, because it's her world, you know.
You're not too
Exactly.
far from Oak Ridge. Have you been up there?
I have been to Oak Ridge, yeah. I've been around
Well,
a lot of places.
yeah, that's a great group up there, that REPA.
Yeah, yeah. Ralph Hutchison.
Yeah, he's officially retired, but he signed the last letter I got from him.
Yeah. And they're going to be doing something in Oak Ridge, of course, on August 6th and
Yes,
9th.
they always do.
And I'm sure if people went to orepa.org, they could find out all the specifics. So, well, Ellen, it just during that Zoom, you did reference a very powerful video, and I just want you to promote that so that
Is
people
that the
can
one
call it
with
up.
Hideko Tamura Snyder?
Yes, from Democracy Now!
Yeah, yeah.
Let people know where to find this. It's about a 30-minute video, a little bit less.
If you go to Hideko, if you go to democracynow.org, all one word, Democracy Now, and look up Hideko, Hideko, Tamura, Tamura, it will take you right to it.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, thanks very much for the update. Thanks very much for,
And may I just say,
please.
Hideko Tamura Snyder is a survivor of Hiroshima. She moved to the United States to go to college and married someone here, and she lives in Oregon. Um, and she and I are both active members of Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, U.S. section. I'm co-chair of the Disarm End Wars Committee.
Say
And
say that again so people can really get it.
repeat what?
What organization you're with?
Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, U.S. section. WILPF it was founded in 1910, and it has been against war forever. And it's a great international group. There's a group that's affiliated with it called Reaching Critical Will that does great reports on what's happening at the United Nations around disarmament. That's reachingcriticalwill.org if anyone wants to check that out.
All right. Very good. Very good. Thanks so much, Alan. Thanks so much.